Stranger Things is meh. So my family just got Netflix, and so I was finally able to watch Stranger Things. There's something really interesting about coming back to cultural milestones after they had their initial impact, because you can look at them with the perspective of knowing just how popular and discussed it is. I went into Stranger Things with an open mind. I had heard mixed things about seasons 2 and 3, but everyone has said season 1 was perfect. And yeah, it was alright. Now, I didn't go into this show with stars in my eyes and a hype frenzy. At the time I'm writing this script, season 4 has yet to be released, and season 3's been out for a while. I have a lot of criticisms of Stranger Things, and I view this show more in a negative light than a positive one. If you follow me on Twitter, you could probably already tell that. But there are things about the show I do like, so I want to talk about those first before I get angry. First of all, the acting is great. I'm talking both kids and adults. Everyone talks about how great the characters are in Stranger Things, but a performance can make or break a character. Look at Bucky from the MCU. Canonically, there's very little to the character, but Sebastian Stan brings a lot to his performance, so he sells the audience on the character. Most of the characters in Stranger Things have more to them than Bucky does, but my point is that acting is important. Everyone talks about the child actors in the show, and yeah, they're the best child actors I've seen. Not only do they deliver their lines effectively and do an excellent job conveying difficult emotions, but they all gel together extremely well. The first season of this show is sold with how well all the boys interact with each other. They really do feel like friends who have known each other for a long time and share common interests. I totally buy their friendship. Max also blends with the group really well, and the friendship between her and Elle is adorable and is honestly my favorite part of season 3. All of these kids are really highly deserving of praise, and I'm glad that this show is giving them good exposure. The adults are also good. Yes, their characters aren't the best at times, and often they seem to be repeating themselves, but that's not so much really the fault of the actors as it is the writers. But still, the adults all do a great job as well. The sets and aesthetic of the show are also great. Everything has a dirty, lived-in feel to it. Although this show has a lot of 80s nostalgia, it's effective in making it both exciting to the characters and the audience. The mall in season 3 is not only a great location, but a way to show how America was changing and that this is a fresh and exciting time for our characters. Sometimes it does interrupt the flow of a scene, like with the new Coke bit, but overall, Hawkins feels like a real place with real people living in it. And what else? The music is good, the editing is fun sometimes, and the third season is anti-communist, I guess? Okay, now I get to be angry. Like I said, there are a lot of things I like about this series, but the stuff I don't like just ruins the experience for me. Now you may have noticed I didn't talk about the characters in the things I like section. Well, that's because I don't like all the characters. I like the kids, and I like Joyce and Hopper for seasons 1 and 2. I like Steve through the whole thing, and I like Robin. Robin is the cool lesbian every writer tries to write but can't. That's most of the cast right there. Everybody else has already talked about how great these characters are, and maybe I'll do individual videos on my favorites at some point. But I just have to say, I hate Nancy and Jonathan. Nancy is a rich white girl who thinks she's something that she isn't. The show actually addresses this, but all she says is, okay, I was wrong, and nothing ever comes of it. She's an idiotic girl in season 1, but that was the point, so I'll let it slide. Then she gets emotionally close to Jonathan in seasons 1 and 2, and even confronted with the fact that Jonathan might be in love with her, but she does nothing about it. If she really only viewed Jonathan as a friend, then she should have talked to him like what Robin did in season 3 with Steve. But she doesn't do anything. In fact, it's mentioned at the beginning of season 2 that they barely talked in between seasons. She only kinda breaks up with Steve, and then after some denial, she goes macking on Jonathan. She emotionally plays both Steve and Jonathan and then acts like the victim. Then in season 3, she wants to be a reporter for some reason. Where did this come from? There is literally nothing to indicate that she wanted to be a reporter at all in the first 2 seasons. I honestly think it's just here to shoe in a sexism in the workplace message, but it just feels so out of place and disconnected from everything else. Like, it makes sense that Jonathan would want to work at a newspaper because he loves photography, but nothing that was established about Nancy leads her to reporting. It makes no sense. I actually liked Jonathan early season 1, and granted I like him a lot more than Nancy, but the way he is in seasons 2 and 3, he's just kind of there. In season 1, he worked because he was supporting his mom, who was losing her mind, and he was solving a mystery with Nancy. We're showing that he cares about his brother and that he's a shy kid. He's a pretty decent guy until he takes those photos of Nancy and Steve, and just like that, I lost a lot of respect for Jonathan. He admits he shouldn't have done it, and I guess it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things considering he and Nancy get together anyway. but it just leaves me with a bad taste in my mouth. He's also kind of a pushover. He's Nancy's buddy for their plot lines, but most of the times it just feels like he's there to drive and kiss Nancy, I guess. I know I could pick apart other characters as well, like the complete degradation of Hopper and Joyce in season 3, but I want to specifically focus on Nancy and Jonathan because they're always together for a major plot line, and honestly, my dislike of these characters makes it harder for me to enjoy the plots of the show overall. Good thing there isn't much of that after season 1! Now we get to stuff that really grinds my gears, the directing, the plots. Let's start with directing. This show is supposed to be a kind of horror show, and a lot of it is clearly inspired by Stephen King and H.P. Lovecraft with a dash of Steven Spielberg in there. I don't really like horror. I get spooked pretty easily by horror films, so I absorb discussion of horror movies by watching various movie critics and reading about how various horror films were made. I respect films like Psycho, The Shining, and Alien because they're important landmark films for the horror genre and really change the way a lot of people view those kind of movies. They're historical, but I get spooked by horror easily, and Stranger Things season 1 spooked me. I found the first episode truly terrifying and jumped multiple times throughout the season. Then it stopped being scary. There are 2 reasons why Stranger Things stopped being scary for me. Reason 1, the monsters. The Demogorgon was scary at first. Its split mouth design is frightening, and probably due to budget reasons, we don't see too much of it. It's kind of a Jaws situation. Otherwise though, its design is pretty lame. The mouth is really the only thing it has going for it. But I get the design is supposed to be simple, and it honestly doesn't need to be anything else. But the monster designs just go downhill from here. The Demodogs are bland. Again, the only thing they have going for them are their mouths, but they just aren't scary. They're about as scary as a pack of actual rabid dogs or wolves. The fact that they're from another dimension doesn't make them any more terrifying. The giant monster Will sees in the Upside Down seems interesting at first, until you realize it's just a bunch of big tentacles, and the head design is literally just a xenomorph head. And then in season 3, the kids fight a jelly monster. That's what it is. It's a jelly monster that by the end of the season looks more like ground beef. With a xenomorph head! These monsters are not interesting and they are not scary. This show thinks that teeth, slime, and flashing lights are the scariest things. Oh yeah, let's get to my biggest problem with the show. The freaking flashing lights. I hate the way the lights flicker on and off whenever the monsters from the Upside Down are nearby. It worked in the first season because we didn't really know what the monster was. They didn't want to show it too much. So I'm fine with that in the first season. But seasons 2 and 3 just go overboard with it. Now this is effective from a storytelling standpoint and letting the audience know that the monster is close. But that also kind of gives away the horror of it. We as an audience know that when the lights flicker, the monster is close and we need to be ready for it. But that's a small gripe. What really gets to me about the lights is that it is so freaking annoying. I hate it when the lights start flashing because I know I'm not going to have any idea what is actually happening on scene for the next 5 minutes. The lights flash so quickly my eyes can't adjust and I can't even see what's happening. Even a visually interesting scene like the fight scene in the funhouse in season 3 has flashing lights. It annoys me so much because every scene with the monster has flashing lights. So not only am I unimpressed by the monsters themselves, but I can't even see what I'm supposed to be seeing. I get that these reasons are super personal, but I just can't get by them. They legitimately ruin a good chunk of the show for me. I can't even enjoy the human fight scenes either. Again, this is really personal, but I hate when fistfights are shot with close-ups and quick cuts. The Russo brothers do this too in their Marvel films. I hate it there and I hate it here. I actually like being able to see what is happening, so I prefer when fights are shot in a wider lens. Again, this is super personal and I can see why nobody else have an issue with it, but still. Just those flashing lights! Why? I mentioned the plot, and I think the plots for seasons 1 and 2 are fine. Season 3 is where it really goes off the rails. I think a lot of people agree that season 3 is a bit nonsensical. I'm not opposed to the Russian plotline. I'm a proud American girl, and some of my favorite things to read are the Federalist Papers and the Constitution, so of course I love it when the communists are the bad guys. In season 3, the Russians are trying to open a portal to the Upside Down, but like, why? We're never told. It is never speculated on by our characters. It's almost as if the writers didn't think of a reason. They just wanted Russians in the show. We know that the Americans opened the portal to the Upside Down on accident because of Al, and we spent season 2 closing that portal. But how did the Russians even know about the Upside Down? All I wanted was some kind of flashback scene where we see one of the guys working at the lab was a Russian spy or something, and the Russians are like, oh yeah, we can tame those creatures because we're Russian or whatever. In fact, that's what's implied with the credit scene at the end of season 3 with the Demogorgon, but we're not given understanding as an audience. And this sucks especially hard because season 3 hands everything else to the audience on a silver platter. There is no mystery in season 3, we're just watching characters do things. Escalation is also becoming a problem for the series. You know what everyone hates on Dragon Ball because everything just keeps resulting in more powerful enemies and more power-ups? Well, Stranger Things is kind of doing the same thing. Elle beats the Demogorgon and then she closes the portal. She doesn't beat Nothing is beaten by destroying the Russian's machine. Elle is the only powerful character in the whole series. The other kids are basically useless when it comes to actually beating these monsters. Every monster becomes more powerful than the last, and only Elle can really do anything against them. Elle's powers do seem to be taking a toll on her. Throughout all of seasons 1 and 2, I kept thinking to myself, Elle has a nosebleed every time she uses her powers. That must be taking some kind of toll on her. After all, humans don't naturally have psychic abilities. It's not until season 3 that this is addressed, and even then it's just kind of blown off as Mike being too protective. Elle loses her powers at the end of the season, but I think we all know that she'll get them back. And watch it, she's going to be able to defeat the giant tentacle monster. Why? Because escalation. She struggled with the Demogorgon, she struggled with closing the portal, but no, she'll be able to beat that tentacle monster just fine. Just you watch. People say, well, the plot may be going downhill, but at least the characters are still good, and I have to disagree. At this point, the only characters I even mildly care about are Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Will. I honestly care less about the rest of the cast. I honestly had to force myself to finish season 3 so I could write this script, and I hated it, quite frankly. I felt nothing watching the Byers move away. The only thing I kind of felt sad about was leaving the Byer house for good. That was a great set. I've seen the trailer for season 4, and I hate it. Bringing Hopper back just shows that this show is afraid to have real stakes and do something interesting. A lot of my problems with this show might have been fixed by having something completely new and different as the monster or antagonist for season 2 and for season 3. Now we've seen the upside down monsters and know how they work. It's not scary anymore. It's just something our characters have to beat. Something completely new on the table would allow for interesting and creative ideas. They kind of do this in season 3 with the whole body snatcher, hypnotism, turning them into jelly thing, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's not really scary, and it's just kind of whatever. There are so many horror, fantasy, and sci-fi elements you could pull from. The sky's the limit, but I don't think these writers are that creative, or if they are, they're scared to do anything different. They got lucky with season 1, they've been chasing that high ever since. It makes me sad because Stranger Things could have been something really special that would have made multiple seasons worth it, and it could have been something truly revolutionary. But all it seems to have done is bring 80s nostalgia to the forefront and spike the rise in Stephen King adaptations. Normally at the end of one of these negative videos, I try to say something there's still good about the series and that I like, but I honestly can't say that about Stranger Things. I'd say the first season is worth a watch, and maybe season 2 if you like the characters enough. Otherwise, all I can say is that I wish the actors were in a better show. Well guys, this is my longest video yet, and I can't thank you all enough for watching. If this video does well enough, I will do a video on season 4 when it releases. Even if this video bombs, I will still probably do a video on it because it will probably make me mad. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about Stranger Things in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. You all know what to do. I love you all, and I hope you have a great day.